शुरू अच्छा मैं बोल रहा हूँ.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to the 35th edition of the Water Series webinar on Catch the Rain campaign, organized by the National Water Mission, Ministry of Jal Shakti, Government of India, in association with APAC News Network. First, before we proceed, I would just like to apologize to all the viewers that due to some unforeseen circumstances, the last two editions could not be held, and some of the DMs who were scheduled to present in those discussions, they would be presenting their achievements in some future webinar. So for today's series, we have the district magistrates and the chief development officers from both north and south. We are represented by Uttar Pradesh in the north. We have with us today Vishal Singh, IAS, the vice chairman of Ayodhya Development Authority and the commissioner of Ayodhya Municipal Corporation. Welcome, Vishalji, to the show. We have with us AS Dinesh Kumar, IAS Collector and District Magistrate of Prakasam District in Andhra Pradesh. Welcome, Dinesh ji. We have with us Akanksha Rana, IAS and Chief Development Officer of Hardoi in Uttar Pradesh. Welcome, ma'am. And we have with us the guiding light for this campaign, Ma'am Debashri Mukherjee, IAS, Additional Secretary and MD of National Water Mission, Ministry of Jal Shakti. Welcome, Debashri, ma'am. So we would like to again request Debashri, ma'am, to start today's proceedings with her keynote session, where she would be setting the agenda for today's discussion and briefly mention some of the objectives and plans for this campaign. Over to you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's great, as usual, to have young administrators here to talk about the work they are doing in the districts in the field. As I say again and again, water management, water governance is about learning from different efforts in different circumstances, and therefore learning from you people, hearing what you have to say, and thereafter amplifying your experiences is a very important part of the National Water Mission. I think one of the things that I want to talk about today, every time I speak in the beginning of these sessions, I talk about how critical water management is and how this importance has increased since when I was in the subdivision and the district. Today, water management is much more center stage of development administration than it was before, actually exemplifying the challenges that lack of water or excess water is posing to the development process. But today I'm really going to talk about the challenge that is being posed by climate change to water management. I mean, climate change hits the water cycle first, and we are already seeing the evidence. While predictions say that there will not be a reduction in the total quantum of water that India receives, what we would be faced with are more extreme precipitation events. We've already seen that in the south this time. We are seeing it in Madhya Pradesh, and also possibly longer dry spells. So therefore, this could not only hit water security, but it could also hit our food security. So therefore, we need to be nimble about our processes and what the strategies that we adopt to ensure that water is managed effectively. It is about managing the water that we have. So therefore, so this is one of the key objectives of the National Water Mission, but also of the Jal Shakti Abhiyan that has been implemented from 2019 onwards. All of us here, and I think most of the audience know that since 2019, we have been implementing this huge call to action for water conservation and recharge prior to the monsoons. So we start sometime around the 22nd of March. We prepare ourselves for the rain. So all our water bodies, we try and clean before the rains. We try and ensure that the recharge structures, new recharge structures are created, existing recharge structures are ready to receive the rains. But we also, prepare for the plantation. So we prepare for the rains. 2019, 2020, because of COVID, we couldn't implement the campaign. But again, 2021 and 2022, it has been an all India effort. And what I have seen in the last few months is that there is great ownership by the states. When it gets owned by states, it's not any longer just a Government of India program. That is when this program, that is when this campaign is likely to be more successful. However, we need to go further. We need to try and ensure that it is owned by the community. And I hope all of you will be able to share how you have mobilized the community to bring water center stage in people's consciousness. I'd also like to emphasize the fact that water situations in districts could be changing. Some districts may be experiencing excess rainfall. Some districts may be experiencing droughts. So we have, as a part of the Jal Shakti Abhiyan, emphasized the creation of the District Water Conservation and Recharge Plan, which takes into account the circumstances of the district and creates that plan. So about 200 districts have done that planning exercise, and I hope all districts will do that as well. And if in your districts you've completed the planning, it would be interesting to just talk about how the planning exercise has been done and how it is helping water conservation in your area. Finally, again, I look forward to hearing from you. And in fact, the points that you raise actually inform policy action in the Ministry of Water Resources, in the Ministry of Jal Shakti, and will also inform better implementation of the campaign in the years to come. I'll stop here and I'll open it out for the participants. Thank you.
Thanks, Debashri Madam. You have touched upon two very important points today, climate change and its long-term impact on water management. And another important part was how the federalism in the Indian structure, that can play an important role in water management, state level action, district level actions. So great. So now we will come to our first speaker of the day. I would like to hand it over to Vishal Singh, IAS, Vice Chairman of Ayodhya Development Authority and Commissioner, Ayodhya Municipal Corporation, to talk about the efforts that he has put in the district of Ayodhya. Over to you, Vishal.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, Rajneesh ji, for giving us this opportunity to represent what we are doing here in Ayodhya. As ma'am has rightly said, this climate change has already impacted us, and erratic temporal and spatial rainfall pattern in eastern UP is obvious. Rivers are overflowing, whereas catchment areas are dried up and parched. And we are having it right here in Ayodhya, which is supposed to have more than average annual rainfall than other parts of the UP. So we have started this project some 8 months back with the help of National Mission for Clean Ganga, NMCG. And we were initially thinking that we will try and identify all the water bodies of the district, but we have done almost 108 water bodies as of now, which are of not only religious importance, but are also, they have a history to attach to it, which were really important for community to organize themselves around them. But over a period of time, due to the greed of whatever and the increasing population pressure, these were all encroached upon and were being kind of used for constructions and activities like that. But after identification of these water bodies, we started systematically conserving them. I'll take you through this small presentation to explain what we have been doing here in Ayodhya. And this whole effort that we are making this time is basically focused on the catchment area improvement and making sufficient amount of water available for people to use, and creating structures and creating programs which are organizing communities around these water bodies to get associated with these water bodies, take the ownership, and make it a sustainable and something to actually be proud of, that they have water bodies around them. That has been our effort, and I'll just take you through the presentation. Next. There's something is typical that we have been doing here in Ayodhya. We have to, after this Ram Mandir construction started, Honorable Prime Minister gave us a vision for Ayodhya, that what Ayodhya should be in 2047 when we complete 100 years of our independence. And starting from there, we did a lot of consultations, and we stay with his stakeholders from every walk of life, from priests to people who are coming here as tourists, from residents to people who have been here or were posted as bureaucrats, people who are looking after religious cities, people who are actually having a much more exposure all over the world. So after all that, we have frozen this Ayodhya Vision 2047, which has been our guiding light. And water conservation, catchment area improvement plays a very important role in our master planning, also in our whole development activity and process that we have, because we want to make it a sustainable city. Starting from there, we I'll just next slide, please. These are the three major activities which we're going to adopt for making Ayodhya a global spiritual capital, and make it a global tourism destination, and make it a sustainable smart city. These are the three goals or the strategies that we are going to adopt. And as you can see, in tourism destination, we have strategy for water conservation in Ayodhya already imbibed into our vision. Next. Next, please. There are certain challenges, and there are certain goals that we have decided to mitigate those challenges. One is water contamination, because Ayodhya does not have or did not have any kind of a sewer system, and all defecation and everything, water, gray water, black water, everything was getting mixed up with the water that is actually ultimately flowing into the Saryu River. So that was one challenge. Then loss of indigenous flora and fauna because of rapid urbanization, which was not really planned, and blue and green infrastructure were not really considered earlier. So whole ecological disbalance has been here. And then lack of awareness, because this area of Eastern UP is not really very well educated, not sufficient amount of economic activities are not there. People who are here are generally residual population. Those who could do something have moved out of this place because there is no economic opportunity, there is no job opportunity. So people who are remaining here are basically, there's a lack of awareness amongst them. So we had all these challenges, and we have actually adopted various goals to mitigate these challenges. Like we are working incessantly on creating awareness amongst public. We are trying to reinstate ecological biodiversity, and we are working in a very kind of a concerted and concentrated form to restore the quality of water in the catchment itself, so that river doesn't really get polluted by this. And also water is available to people in the catchment area while it is flowing back to the river after rainfall. Next. These are some pictures showing what kind of water bodies we had when we started the project. As you can see on the top left, there's a picture that 15 to 20 feet of sludge was there in existing water bodies. It was never cleaned over a period of last 70 years, and sewerage was flowing inside in this water body. There were a lot of encroachment, and water bodies were left unattended because there was no plan for it initially. And there was a lot of solid waste was dumped into water bodies, and sites were overflowing with various inorganic material, and polluting the whole water that was there available on the surface. Then next. Then to begin with, next please. To begin with, we chose these water bodies. As you can see, Brahma Kund, and then Lal Diggi, Agni Kund, Khurj Kund, Vidya Kund, Sita Kund, Dashrath Kund, Samda Lake, Tilodki Ganga, and Janaura Lake. Why I'm mentioning this? Because as you can see, some of these, I mean, almost rather 90% of these water bodies have a historical name. They have already been, they were being used by people earlier for various festivals on various days. They used to come there, take bath, perform their rituals and pujas. But over a period of time, they were like really dilapidated. So the kind of mix that we have, and Lal Diggi and Janora that you can see here, these lakes were not really of religious importance, but they're very big. So the mix that we have here is typically because we want community to engage with what we are doing. If we take, these are all very small, but we chose them with the purpose that people understand and get associated with. While the temple is being built there, they also start appreciating their water bodies and understand their history, their importance in the erstwhile times and culture, and then start adopting them also, people who are living around them. And the other ones like Lal Diggi and Janora, as you can see, they are big ones, but they were in the middle of urban settlements, but they were not really looked up as water bodies. They were just considered as some place where sewerage can go unhindered. And one of them, this number 8, that is Samda Lake. That's a very big water body. So it's basically a wetland which we are rejuvenating this time, and a lot of migratory birds here come here from different parts of the world, and almost 256 varieties of birds have already been sighted, and we are looking forward to create more better place and safer place for international migratory birds. Next. This is just kind of a geographical location of water bodies which we have identified, and Ram Janmabhoomi is very close to Brahmakund that you can see on the top, and the rest of them are around the Ram Janmabhoomi temple. Next. Just to explain quickly about the process that we have adopted, we have identified water bodies based on geography, urban, rural, and semi-urban, based on water quality, fresh water, underground, I mean, like wherever the water in the pond is from underground, then rainwater and contaminated water. We had this kind of mix because, I mean, like we had limited budget from NMCG. So we had to have all types of challenges that we want to address. So we had this mix of water bodies identified, then strategized about their planning. We did not want to use any kind of additive to it, any kind of chemical to be put into the water. So we have thought of, or we have adopted natural ecological sewage treatment plan, and we are focused on segregation of sewage water from water bodies, followed by strategized designing as per the extent of water quality improvement required, and then ultimately execution on the basis of on the earthwork, civil work, and plantation. Civil work is minimal, and most important is community engagement in every section of the work that we are doing. Next. We have following a method of natural ecological sewage treatment plan for water conservation, because this is low maintenance and operational cost is very low. There is no chemical intervention, and there is no their sludge and soil excavated can be reused in the pond itself for creating bunds. So there is no cartage, there is no transportation required in this. And the fourth one is organic rejuvenation of lost biodiversity, because we do not want to disturb the ecosystem that all these water bodies have. So this is the process that we're adopting, and we have to begin with the goal that we have set for ourselves by the end of the year is we want to rejuvenate 108 water bodies and 10 drains which are to be treated, because they are flowing all the way to Saryu River. Next. So how are we doing it? The first process is segregation. We are segregating sewage water from lake or kund water through diversion canal. Because when sewerage water or grey water comes from the city to a water body, first of all, we have to sort out the inorganic part, the plastic bottles or some wrappers or for thermocol. All these things have to be removed from the water bodies. They are floating generally. So we are putting bamboo plantations in the beginning itself to arrest those things from flowing into the main water body. And then filtration. we are after filtration, we are letting the water flow through long channels which we are creating. We are letting the water meander through this channel by creating bunds and then culverts on these small bunds by using a normal cement pipe, which is very cheap. And the bunding is done by the mud that we are excavating from these ponds by desilting. So there is hardly any expense. And while we let the water flow through this channel, the sedimentation happens. And after sedimentation, then water becomes clearer. Sunlight can penetrate through it. Obviously, it improves its COD and BOD qualities. And ultimately, water becomes clearer after traveling through almost around a kilometer and a half through those channels. And we get the clean water body in the clean water from these channels, ultimately into the larger section of the water body, which then again also receives water from the rainfall. Next. Till now, progress achieved. Till now, we have I have shown some of those water bodies that we have worked with. The first one is Khurj Kund. Can you just go back a slide, please? Yes, next one. I think there is some mismatch in the presentation, but no, this is not the presentation. Anyways, as you can see, the Tilodki Ganga that is being shown here, before it was all encroached upon by households on both the sides, and it was just flowing through the urban sprawl. But on the right side, you can see that we identified and removed those encroachments with the help of local administration and also by engaging people. And while digging this canal, we just used the mud that was coming out of water flowing area to use create bunds on both the sides. Now plantation is going on these bunds. This is the next one. On the left, you can see Khurj Kund, where we are just using a normal Poke-Lane earth mover machine to dig the pond, remove the silt because it was become so thick because of nutrients and sewerage, that water was not percolating and aquifers were not getting recharged properly. So after removing that mud from silt from the inside, and we have created these bunds on which again plantation is going on, you can see the water body now. In this water body, Khurj Kund, typically it receives water from directly from underground. And after this little digging, you can see a beautiful picture of Khurj Kund now. And on the right side, there's Agni Kund. Agni Kund is again something very famous, but it was dilapidated just because of neglect. And after cleaning it and digging it and creating some painting around it and artwork, now this is one of the most important selfie point for people who are coming to Ayodhya. They come here and they want to get themselves pictured around this Kund now. Next. And this one is Lal Dighi. This is a massive work that is going on. We had to remove almost 20 to 25 feet of sludge from this. It was because it was receiving sewer from all around the city for almost 20 to 25 years, and no intervention was done in here. It was full of water hyacinth and stink was there. It was difficult for people who were living around it. So now we have almost completed this work, and we have created channels and lagoons which are now receiving water from sewerage, and we are removing all that floating inorganic waste from it in the first go. After the first lagoon, then it goes to the second lagoon. After some sedimentation, then it flows through the canal, and from the canal again it goes to the third lagoon. I mean, I think if they have included any picture showing the whole thing in a drone, I'll be able to explain it better. After flowing through these lagoons and canals, water becomes clean, and now it is coming into the main lake. On the right side, again, Sita Kund, that has been cleaned. It was full of water hyacinth because of nutrients coming inside from the sewerage from the neighboring areas. We stopped those sewerage flowing into it, and we have created a channel after which water gets after sedimentation, clean water comes into Sita Kund, and you can see the change there. Next. This is Brahmakund. It's a very important site here in Ayodhya. Brahmakund is a very famous Gurudwara, though not so popular, but Guru Nanak Dev Ji also stayed here, and Guru Gobind Singh Ji stayed here. That's all those artifacts are also kept in the Gurudwara. But next to it was Brahmakund, which was earlier used for bathing. and the whole area was destabilized because of landslides during during rainy season. So we have fixed that by pitching stone on the sides. But you can see the clean water, because we separated sewerage flowing into it, and now no more water hyacinth is going into the Brahmakund, and people have started using this water body now again for using their performing their rituals when they come to Brahmakund. Next. And this is again Vidya Kund, and then I mean, this is same as the other kunds that I have explained. Samda Lake is a peculiar case because it's 167 acres of wetland, which was again encroached upon, and desilting was not done for a very long time. So this was all, there was no water holding capacity in the lake. And we have adopted this project because we want to develop a Ramsar site here in times to come. We have done what all ecological biodiversity studies have been done. We removed all this, we did desilting, and using the material coming out of desilting, we have created bunds around this, which is almost around 8 kilometers of bunding that has been done around the Samda Lake. And already water holding capacity has increased. Next. Water holding capacity has increased, and it's in the process. This one basically shows Anand Malligawardji. He has been helping us through all this process, and he's the man in the center wearing a cap, as you can see. He is also helping us in purifying water of water bodies like kunds, where we do not have a possibility of channelizing water across through the channels. We are using this HDPE is used for making this floating wetland, and we are putting water canals in it, and then they will basically use the nutrients coming in the water from rituals or whatever small activities that are performed around the water bodies, and stop any kind of growth of water hyacinth in these water bodies. This is a picture of a Surya Kund that we are again rejuvenating, almost finishing this rejuvenation. Next. And as I said that, and also ma'am explained it, that community engagement is very important. Whatever beautification and plantation work we are doing, we are involving community in a large scale, and mostly youngsters, because they feel very kind of excited about it, that we are preserving our water bodies, and I think they are the teachers of the future. So we are creating paintings wherever possible. We have hired an agency which is doing it for us, which is making these places more vibrant, and so that people think twice before throwing any garbage into these water bodies. Though we are writing those slogans, creating awareness from other activities also, but we are involving mostly school kids, as you can see on Sita Kund and Samda Lake, because a large amount of plantation was to be done. So we included a school which is in here in Ayodhya, and we have done plantation, and it's continuing even now. Next. Well, we have been very careful about biodiversity conservation. If any of those animals are sighted, if any tortoise or any turtle or any bird or any nesting has been seen, we carefully avoid that particular place. We do not really disturb it, leave it the way it is. And if something like this happens, that the way it has been shown here, so we pick it up and then drop it to the river or a nearby water body, so that they survive. So it has been an standing instructions to execution team that we have to take care of any of those things which are coming in across while rejuvenation of the lakes. Next. And some bit on what we are planning on in future. So after doing the work that we are doing, we plan to continue. We have already forwarded 10 more DPRs to NMCG for important water bodies. We have already applied for 5 more bigger water bodies in Amrut. And the next priority will be that we want to make people aware of whatever is being done. Tilodki Ganga, like I said, that the river that we have rejuvenated 16 kilometers of the river, it has been very well taken by people. Now they are coming because the whole catchment area is sparse. There is no rainfall. They are using that water for basically irrigating their paddy plantation that is going on in this part of the country. So it's something like people are now started thinking about it. They have started taking that pride in it, and we want to continue this work in the future too. Next. Then again, these are all some details of water bodies, which is probably, I don't think it's needed here. Next. Next. Well, we very much appreciate what National Water Mission is doing, and we seek more guidance from ma'am. We will keep working on the goals and align our goals, our activities with the goals of National Water Mission. We are trying to create in situ water rejuvenation of 8 Kunds and Samda, whatever data documentation that has to be collected for comprehensive database in public domain. We want to create that and put it in public so that they take the ownership, they understand what has been done here. And it's also a kind of a social audit where we get to know whatever we have been doing, what kind of impact it has created. And engaging community, it has to be a part of all the activities that we are doing with water bodies. And I think those who are encroaching upon, those who are exploiting these water bodies for their small little greed, we are trying to make them understand. And now good part is that community itself is coming forward and they are opposing them. So it is becoming difficult for people to disturb water bodies. And very soon, I think reinstating natural resources and water, preventing contamination with sewage water, it's ongoing. We are already implementing a sewerage plan here. We have to construct the whole pipeline. Its work is going on for that. We are also creating a 33 MLD STP in Ayodhya Kant area. So very soon we will also have STP in place so that there is no gray or black water coming into the water bodies. But while it is coming, we plan to treat it in a natural way. Next. Next. Well, 50 plus years of waste. I mean, I've already explained it in my presentation till now. Next. This was the plan. I mean, this little more detailed how we have or kind of treated this sewerage lake. So in an urban, it's an urban area, water body in an urban, middle of an urban area. So what we did is first we dewatered it to make diversion channels to segregate sewage water from rainwater. And the bigger pond that you can see on the top right side, basically this is the place where all the rainfall comes from natural rainfall. And also the channels that you can see that on the down side of it, the first water comes into it after normal filtration, where we remove inorganic impurities. After that, water flows through in a meandering manner and going through these lagoons and canals. Ultimately, it reaches back into the main water body that we have created, the 5 acres. And it is a clean water which has no stink. So we have separated sewerage water from normal rainwater and cleaner water. And that has taken, it has become the largest part of the lake. More than almost around 50% of lake is now free from any kind of impurity. And people can use this for recreation and different kind of public activities that they want to perform. Next. This is a drone site. We are showing the various aspects of Lal Diggi. And you can see the channels and lagoons that have been created inside the water body. Next. And next, this is all I have spoken about. This is the kind of design that we have used for Samda Lake. As you can see, it is like we are creating bunds, and after creating bunds, the tapering is or the slope is tapered and it's not steep so that nobody gets to fall into it accidentally. It is deepest in the center, whereas we are slowly tapering it with a ratio of 1:2 and going all the way up. The bunds that are shown here are basically used by being made by using the mud that has come out of this desilting process. And after creating these bunds from the mud, we are creating plantations, putting plantations on these bunds to create work as a fence. And we are creating a trench on the outer side of it for stopping the silt that will flow into the lake after rainfall and rain. And the desilting will happen in this particular trench. And after that, when it overflows, the water will go into the lake. So a kind of filtered water is coming into the lake now. Next. Again, this is a picture of community engagement. Next. That's it that I had to say, and I would be open for any questions, queries, or anything that you want to ask.
Thanks, Vishalji. I think ma'am will give her feedback at the end. And thanks for taking us how the water conservation project is aligned with the overall Ayodhya development project, and taking us through the case studies of individual water bodies. We have our second presentation of the day. Shri A.S. Dinesh Kumar, IAS, Collector and District Magistrate of Prakasam in Andhra Pradesh. So over to you, Mr. Dinesh, for your presentation.
Very good evening, ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am? Yeah, can you please load
Yes,
the...
you're audible, Dinesh. Please go ahead.
Yeah, next. This is Prakasam district, ma'am. In Andhra Pradesh, previously we had 13 districts, in which a recent reorganization of districts have happened. And after the reorganizations, Prakasam districts become the largest districts in the entire Andhra Pradesh, ma'am. And like we have in other states, we have in tehsils, we have mandals. Mandals are like 1/3 of a tehsil, and we have 38 such mandals, which are the administrative unit in terms of development as well as revenue in Prakasam district. So this is a basic spread of the entire district. I mean, the entire the mandals in the entire district. Next. And this is the district profile, ma'am. The entire presentation is about how this particular district geography have been studied, and how the water map of the entire district can be studied, and the intervention measures have to be taken up through our Jal Shakti Abhiyan in various structures, in terms of topography, as well as the time period in which the planning has to happen, and how we're going to carry out the developmental activities hand in hand with the conservation as well. So the geography says this is around 14,000 square kilometers, which is one of the vast spread. We have the population of the entire district, as per the previous census, around 22 lakhs. In which you can see around 23 and off, and almost 24% of the population is with scheduled caste communities, and most of them are dependent on the land as the agricultural labor. And the land holding pattern, as you can see, that the small farmers are having 1.29 and marginal farmers are 2.62, and total average land holding is coming to around 4 acres. We have huge tracts of land which is not put to use for the agriculture in many of the locations for want of water, because the major around 70% of the entire district agricultural landscape is totally dependent on rainfall directly. So we have one major irrigation structure, which is Nagarjuna Sagar structure, where we get one main canals coming to the district of northern part of the district, and it irrigates around 2 lakh acres of lands. So overall, we have around 5 lakh acres of irrigated land, 5 lakh acres of agricultural lands, but the irrigation is around 1/4 of the entire stretch of area which is available. This is the district water profile. We have this is one of the most drought-prone districts, except for the last 3 years. Previously, when you take last 8 years of entire rainfall pattern, except for the last 3 consecutive years, it was totally in the previous, hitherto, the old the district, which had around 56 mandals. Around 54 mandals have been declared drought for the consecutive 5 years. So this is the average. The average itself is only 84 centimeter of annual rainfall, but we had a deficit of around 30% to 12% deficits in every consecutive previous 5 years. So the district had a very bad rainfall pattern for the last 8 years, and you can see the overexploited areas in the western side of the Prakasam, where they are uplands. They are the highlands of the Nallamala range of Eastern Ghats, and you can see most of the overexploited areas are around that, because the drinking water is drinking water as well as the irrigation are the scarce resources there, and overexploitation through bore wells had made around 92 habitations totally overexploited. And the western side, whatever you see, these are the overexploited regions as far as the water table is concerned. And this entire Prakasam right now we studied the water, as far as the water conservation measures, we took a study about the major basins where we need to do this intervention measures. So we studied the topography to find out 4 major basins. So one is Gundlakama, which comes in the northernmost part of the Prakasham. Then Paleru, Maneru, Musi. These are the 4 major rivers. Rivers means the river basins, and there were minor river basins in adjacent to the margins of the district. Yeah, next. I mean, this is about the profile of how the hands, the working hands, as far as the water conservation methods are used, and people engaged in this entire water conservation through NRGS of Prakasham district. So we had given employment to around 1.27 crore man days for the last season, and the present season, and Prakasham district is the largest wage providers in the entire state in terms of total number of man days, as well as the overall wage component generated in the entire state. Next slide, please. Yes, ma'am. So this is what the topography of Prakasham district is. Like you said, you can see in the first diagram, the western part is more of a hillock, and the major range, Nalamala range, which travels from south to northeast, and it covers a major of the uplands. Comes and we divide into a western hills. And the central part, where it is more of a plateaued areas, where a lot of rivulets and different water drainage basins have eroded and made into, we call this as a central uplands, and there is a eastern coastal plains. So we can see the entire, water demography of our entire Deccan Plateau. The similar structures we can see here. So western side is a western hill, and central uplands, where we have a plateaus as well as plainlands. And the eastern side is totally eastern coastal plain, and it has around 105 kilometers of the coastal coast, and a subsequent around 5 to 10 kilometers inside the land are more of salinated water because of the proximity of the sea. So we have a challenge of planning in terms of choosing the choice of works based upon the topography of the entire district. Yeah, next. So we made this conservation strategies accordingly, ma'am. We first, based upon the topography, we planned what are all our priorities in terms of water conservation is concerned. So basically, the western side of the Prakasam is where the rainfall concentration is more, and where we need to do a lot of water conservation through watershed management. And like you said, the recent last 3 years, we can see the rainfall pattern, ma'am. There is a change in terms of intensity of the rainfall. There has been a substantial increase, like you said, a concentration of rain during the northeast monsoon, and later we have a larger dry spells. So our strategy right now is about watershed management in the western side of the Prakasham, and the soil conservation because of quick transit of water along the hills. So watershed management combined with soil conservation and the grading of all hillocks. You can appreciate what a western Ghats as well as the eastern Ghats. The western Ghats have a lot of greenery and more rainfall. So the soil conservation here, the eastern Ghats, is a peculiar problem where any kind of a downpour, it is going to take away all the topsoils, and the soil conservation is the most important task in the western side of it. So the central uplands, we have lots of water. We can hold on water what has been stopped or conserved in the watersheds. We can store these waters in the central uplands. So we are concentrating more on water harvesting structures there, and old water bodies. They were because this is a vast and a very dry district. And there has been a legacy work which has been happened the last 120 years, where there has been a lot of attempt by the pre-independence administrators preparing a lot of water bodies have been created. But this renovation repair of these water bodies have been taken as a priority task in the central uplands. And we have dry lands, like I said, 70% of my entire agriculture is totally dependent on rainfall. And there is a huge scope for going for dry land horticulture is also is on the anvil. So we have taken up a kind of a plan for going for a cluster-based horticulture plantations all across the central uplands. And come to the eastern coastal plains, this is totally a plain area, but it's having poor soil quality because of the salt water as well as the poor irrigation structure. So we created lots of feeder canals from the local MI tanks, which we created out of from this NRGS works as well as the Jal Shakti Abhiyan. And we going for very aggressive plantations across all the bunds and conserving this. We taking up aggressive water recharge activities so that we can bring down the salinity of the groundwater, and it can be put to use for both agriculture as well as the drinking water. So these are the conservation strategies which we taken up in three different strata, three different topography of Prakasham. Next. So these are the basin areas. Ma'am, what we did in Prakasham, ma'am, we just studied last 5 years. So what are all the conservation attempts we made, and which are all the works have been geotagged. So we just prepared this drainage basins, and we just superimpose all the works with geotagged works. And we just checked whether it is fitting the particular geography, whether the choice of works, what we have done, is fitting to the particular geography or not. So for example, like I said, it's a water conservation in terms of Western Prakasham should be more of a watershed management, and the Central Prakasham is more of a water conservation in terms of dugout ponds and major check dams, and Eastern Prakasham is about canals and conservation of MI tanks. So whether we are checking whether the last 5 years of legacy work, whether it is fitting to this particular bracket of work. We found, fortunately, in Western Prakasham, the works were matching to around 65%. 65% of work what we did is fitting to what is exactly required. But Central Prakasham, there was a big deviation of around 65% of works which have been done, could have been avoided, or the choice of work could have been different. And the Eastern Prakasham is totally a different different circumstances where the works which we are taking up presently is going to help, especially to recharge water with the fresh water. So this study helped us to understand what we have done for the last 5 years. So like you said, ma'am, the planning for the coming years is very important. So what I would suggest also, ma'am, is we go for annual work plan for every year in terms of what are the choice of works we do. But unfortunately, we have a huge drainage basins which are interconnected topographically. And the annual plan, the work which we have taken up annually, is not actually sufficient. We need to go for a perspective plan of, say, what bigger watersheds are taking place. So at least a perspective plan of around 5 years, how we align all the works for the next 5 years. If we can prepare and put a perspective plan for the entire for every district, I think that will definitely take up a good shape in terms of conservations in the longer run. Because every year, a new team of people coming up, planning for that particular year, achieving the targets of wage as well as the material generated, and again going for the new year, new plan, forgetting about what we have done previously, it's not making sense because water conservation cannot be segregated annually. It should have a very longer vision of doing a projects which should cross more than a year. So we studied this topography as well as the choice of work we did. And we are planning for creating a perspective plan for the particular district, for Prakasham district, ma'am, and which we segregated works which should be carried more than 3 years. It's a long-term plan, long-term works, and the works falling between 1 to 3 years is a medium term, and less than 1 year is going to be the annual plan. So more than 1 year plan, between 3 years and 5 years, these works, we are preparing a DPR rather than preparing an estimate. We want to prepare a DPR for those set of works, and we are going to use the stakeholders in terms of engaging them in terms of planning, using the local communities in terms of planning during the execution and visualization. So from the works, I have been in the district for last 4 months. I've been posted recently. So while traveling across the districts and seeing the works, so what I could see is it's the engagement, the public engagement, and the collaboration with the different stakeholders is somehow have been taken the backseat. So what are the works we have done? Though we have boards and though we have a description about the work, but the actual utility of that particular work is not exactly reaching the communities. So the community is not able to appreciate what is this particular work has been done, other than understanding what is the volume of work, what is the expenditures government has incurred. So we started this PRA exercise even now, ma'am, for the next years of the work thing. We want to engage every village into this. And in Andhra Pradesh, we have a new system. The government has established a system called Village Secretariat. So every 2,000 population, we have a village secretariat, village Sachivalayam, in which there are the village functionaries are around 8 to 10 people, which are newly appointed who are the government servants with various departmts. Like we have one engineer, we have one revenue official, we have one surveyor, one health A&M, and one Mahila police, and one a welfare assistant. So there are around 8 different people who have been posted right now, and there are voluntary systems also introduced. So every 50 households, we have one volunteer appointed in a honorarium basis, so who are going to be a kind of an engaging how the communities with the government schemes and programs. So we have already started the training program for all this village secretariat staffs in terms of how to do this PRA exercise and how to engage the communities. So this time we are preparing plans from the villages, clearly defining them what is the priority in terms of the geography in which the location, and what is the utility of this particular projects. So we are drawing up what are all the priorities in that particular village, and we are asking the villages to choose from the different works in which we are going to propose them. For what comes first and what comes second. And we are also kind of connecting different villages. If there is a project which is going beyond a village in terms of a medium level plan of work, so we engage the next level of functionaries in the mandals to come closer, and they are also going to collaborate each other and come out with a resolution of taking a perspective plan for that particular work. So this community engagement, I'm sure that will go a long way in terms of the public engagement, in terms of first execution of the work, first selection of work, execution, and utility of every work. The utility can be 2 ways. One is direct and indirect. So wherever there is a direct impact, we could see a lot of public engagement. For example, we did the Amrit Sarovars for the last of August 15th. And there has been a tremendous encouragement from the local communities who came forward, engaged in creating these resources. And there has been a massive buzz about the participation and this launching of this particular scheme. So this is what the planning part meant. This presentation is more about how we are going to transform the planning part of this water conservations into an annual plan, into a perspective plan. Yeah, next. So these are the 4 major basins which we took, ma'am. We studied the area of the land, what is the topography, what is the rainfall in those areas for the last 5 years, and what is the impact of the works which have been done for the last 5 years, and in terms of surface water conservation as well as the groundwater table. You could see the groundwater in the Western Prakasham, that is especially the major basin is in Gundlakama, which is it means the major part of the area covers in the western part of the Prakasham, where there is a huge depletion for the last 4 years happened, and there has been a reduction in terms of groundwater in these areas as well. And we have a peculiar problem of fluoride water, fluoride content of the water in the groundwater is also been identified for the last 20 years, and we have a acute shortage of drinking water in these areas. next. Next. This is the second largest Polyroot basin. Here the major focus is on the farm ponds and dugout ponds, in which, because it covers the central part of Prakasham in a major area. So we are concentrating more on this check dams and farm pond dugouts in these areas to increase to kind of stop the water before flowing into the river, flowing to the sea, and to be used for mostly the agriculture purpose and other community level purposes. Next. This is a Maneru, is another small minor basin. So here also we are concentrating more on dugout and farm out ponds, so that these ponds will be utilized for the community purpose. Next. This is another last minor one. The same kind of a topography and the same choice of what's have been carried out here. Next. Yeah, this is a minor basin, which covers a few number of mandals. Next. Yes. So coming back to the topography, ma'am, here you can see the number of staggered trenches in Western Prakasham, so which have been taken over the last 3 years. There are around 3,000 staggered trenches, which has actually rendered a huge impact in terms of stagnating waters instead of flowing along the hills. And there are lots of soil conservation measures also have been taken up in this Western Prakasham. Farm out and dugout ponds in these areas, which are wherever there were depletion of water, depletion of groundwater, and all the bore wells have failed. These farm ponds and dugout ponds had a great impact in terms of having a utility value in terms of agriculture to the small marginal farmers in this Western Prakasham. Next. So these are the few works which have been conducted, which have been carried out in the hillocks, and this has been well appreciated in terms of inaugurations and utilities by the public as well. Next. The central uplands, you can see the total dugout ponds and farm ponds, and the restoration of the ponds. The old water bodies have been taken in a massive scale, and it has actually had a very good impact in terms of groundwater table in these areas. Almost more than a meter of groundwater has been increased for the last 3 years, thanks to the good rainfall. And just before the rainfalls, we were able to do some good work on the farm dugout ponds and the restoration of the old water conservation ponds, which has rendered an immense impact in terms of increasing the water table in the central uplands. Next. So these are some of the photos where the dugout ponds and the check dams have given a utility value in terms of increasing the water storage to around 1,700 hectares, and it has increased more than 1.23 meters of groundwater. And there has been a tremendous utility, like I said, in the central uplands. Around 5,000 hectares of new irrigation have been utilized in these areas. Next. Then the coastal plains. This is, like I said, it's a very peculiar place where the rainfall is a little lesser in these areas. At the same time, there has been increasing salinity in terms of the soil, as well as there were a lot of the aquaculture farms also available in the entire 100 kilometers of this particular area. So whatever the water we conserved with the help of these farm ponds and the old restoration of the older ponds, so we were able to supply the fresh water to the aquaculture as well as the irrigation. And we could see there's some kind of marginal improvement in terms of groundwater, and the quality of groundwater in terms of the salinity has also had a very tremendous improvement in the last 7 months. And we hope to improve the number of farm ponds in these areas to use it for the community, as well as to improve the salinity of these locations. Yeah, next. So these are a few areas where because of the water conservations in those areas, we were able to increase the horticulture opportunity in those areas as well. And most of this ponds which are adjacent to this aquaculture, they were able to draw water from this fresh tanks which have hold on to the water during the last good rainfall seasons. Next. So this is the Amrit Sarovar project we did, ma'am, and it had, like I said, we totally took up around 126 Amrit Sarovars, in which we completed in August 15th. We first prioritized this 15 works, and like I said, it has had a tremendous impact in terms of the public appreciation, in which every pond had around 600 villages on August 15th who came together, hoisted a flag, and they had some cultural functions, sports activities along this Sarovars, and we had a lot of encroachment evictions in all across these 15 works, which we had to face a lot of public wrath. But once this project was completed, and a huge public involvement and engagement in this project, and was after the completion of the project, all these criticisms and all these problems have been what we faced during this eviction have been totally nullified, and the public have been happily using this particular ponds for their day-to-day functions in terms of cattle, utilizing the cattle for water for the cattle, and for the local purposes. So it's a very good project, ma'am, which we took up in a short period of around 60 days. We were able to do this huge, almost 150 hectares of land have been reclaimed, around 20 hectares of encroachment have been removed, and it was a good experience in terms of this project, especially this Amrit Sarovar is concerned. And we take the inspiration from this 15 works. We are taking up another 126 such tanks all across the district in the same manner, in the same kind of a public engagement and public planning. Next. So, like I said, what are the challenges which we found or which I studied in the last 4 months? Or one is the choice of works. What we had already implemented it, which could have been better if we can studied the topography and had a perspective nature in terms of selecting these works. Second is about informing the local public. Though we have Gram Sabhas happening, but the real engagement in terms of actual planning, actual implementations and utilizations have to be improved a lot. That's the one big shortcoming what I've seen it, and that can only be achieved with tremendous engagement, with aggressive engagement of the public during the planning process. So which we have started in the last 1 month, ma'am, and through the, like I said, through the help of the village sachivalayams, village secretariats, this exercise is being taken up in Prakasham, and I'm sure once this planning process up to October, when we can complete, we'll be able to come out with the perspective plan for the Prakashams, because this district, like I said, it's the largest wage earner for the entire state, and the material component what we generate it is also the largest in the state. And we can put together all the material component as well as the wage component for the next 5 years. It is going to be around 1,500 crores of money which is going to spin around in the district. If we can use this 1,500 crores in terms of planning for a bigger work in terms which have a perspective nature, I'm sure definitely we'll see the ideals of the Jal Shakti Abhiyan or the Water Resource Ministry in the coming years. So we are culling out what are all the challenges or shortfalls happened in the previous regime, and we are kind of giving a new fillip in the planning as well as execution. Next. So some of the best practices for the last 3 years studied is, one is this trenches, which have actually gave a lot of impact in terms of the Western Prakasham, in terms of rejuvenating the water and at least substituting to the groundwater, which has already been with a high intensity of fluoride content. So it has attracted a lot of public attention in terms of utility value, in terms of this trenches all across the hills and subsequent water conservation structures in the foothills. Next. Yeah, horticulture, ma'am. This our district is, like I said, 70% is totally rainfed, and there has been a tremendous scope in bringing the horticulture into this particular arena. And the new we had a new set of group set up for Prakasham, where we have identified a hub of around 1,500 acres of lands in 4 pockets, which can be brought under aroma as well as herbal cultivations under horticulture, which is not a traditional fruit bearing horticulture, but there has been a huge requirement of these aromatic raw materials, which are grown in a wild and as well as the dry areas. So we found 4 different varieties, including aloe vera, eucalyptus, and 2 more items for this area with the help of the KVK as well as the local horticulture officials. And one Indian Institute of Chemical Technology from Hyderabad is also collaborating for identifying the rootstocks for suitability of the supplying of these saplings for this particular project. So once this is achieved, definitely the net income of the farmers, because I've done a small study for the last 30 days about the net income, net margin of every agriculture farmer for the marginal small and medium farmers. And we could find that you can see the red soils where previously it used to be mostly about red grams. The study shows the last 3 years, the per acre actual earning of the agriculture is around 930 rupees to around 1,200 rupees per acre, which is a paltry amount. Where I don't know how farmers are sustaining with this, but the one saving grace is about the livestock populations in Prakasham, which is saving actually the farmers who are actually deprived of income in this traditional agriculture activities. So we want to change the cropping pattern in these areas, introducing one aroma or herbal hub, as well as some more fruit bearing structures through NRGS works. For that, we are utilizing the central uplands mostly, for where we have already created lots of dugout ponds and farm ponds in a bit larger scale. And these ponds we are going to integrate with the micro irrigation plan, and we're going to use these central uplands for horticulture plantations in the next 5 years. So that is also part of the perspective plan, which we want to multiply farmers' income by coming out of the traditional plantations and coming to the new era of a new era of different plantations where we can bring out. And already we had around 40,000 hectares of agricultural land coming under organic farming. We have a zero budget natural farming initiatives in the state, and Prakasham has around 32 different clusters where these 45,000 hectares of land have been used and put under organic farming. So we are going to converge this NRGS as well as this organic farming in terms of supplying water as well as giving the rootstocks, the saplings, and use this ZBNF in terms of both water conservation as well as the plantation structures. So this collaboration definitely would give a lot of fillip in terms of farmers' income as well as appreciation of all the water conservation measures what we are doing through this Jal Shakti Abhiyan. Yeah, next. So these are other works where the eastern part of the areas we do the desilting of MI tanks, which had provided a lot of water during this scarcity time to the aquaculture ponds during these areas. Next. So these are the basic governance. One is we do this governance structures every year, but use of little more technology and little more analytics of the choice of works we did and what are the things we had to do. It can definitely go a long way. So we are kind of again reinforcing the same governance structures, giving a training at the field level people to understand the utility or the purpose of what the work we have been doing. Next. So definitely we, like I said, this is a totally a drought prone area. With these kind of interventions are going to reduce my migration of people to the nearest cities like Hyderabad or Chennai. and the in-situ cultivations and in-situ conservation of waters, and along with other livestock opportunities are going to help people to at least set up their activities in and around Prakasham, reduce the migrations and reduce the distress. Similarly, like I said, around 25% of our population is, 25 to 30%, including scheduled caste and scheduled tribal populations are here. So all the RO for our traditional forest rights, whatever the lands we have provided to the tribals, traditional forest dwellers, as well as the SC communities in terms of land assignments. We are going to brought under this NRGS in terms of land improvement as well as the horticulture, and thereby increasing their farm income through this new innovations of bringing the new aroma hub into Prakasham. And definitely the other productivity can also be productivity of the agriculture as well as the aquaculture can be improved in terms by using this water conservation measures and the water which have been conserved in various last 5 years and the future time to come. And definitely the livelihood, putting this factor of livelihood in every work what we do is going to definitely bring a lot of community engagement, so thereby sustaining this particular assets, maintaining this particular assets is a possibility, ma'am. And in the perspective plan, what we have included were the maintenance of all the water conservation assets is one of the important priorities we brought it, because the annual plan which was missing the maintenance, thanks to the NRGS elaborate planning and the choice of works which have been provided, we can definitely use a good chunk of money, material component in terms of maintaining the old assets which we created, which otherwise would be definitely will be destroyed in 1 or 2 years. If we can maintain them, definitely it can see the light of the utility for at least 10 years. So we have identified those assets which are not maintained properly in the previous years, and we have introduced in the next plan for maintaining them as well. So these are the various planning and conservation activities happen in Prakasham, ma'am. And our bottom line is having a perspective plan for water conservation, which is going to actually see the light of the day in terms of real conservation and real preservation of the ecosystem. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Shri Dinesh Kumar, and thanks for taking us through the impact on topographical impact and how the strategic planning has been done accordingly, and as well as the perspective on the future planning. That was important. Now we have our next presenter, Akanksha Rana, the Chief Development Officer of Hardoi in Uttar Pradesh. And I'd like to now hand it over to Akanksha ma'am for your presentation.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, Rajneesh Dey, sir. And good afternoon to all the seniors present here. First of all, I would like to thank all the seniors who presented before me. And they have presented it very extensively, very elaborately. So I won't be repeating the stuff that have been said before. And actually, we are already overshooting the prescribed time limit, and we are out of time, I think. So I'll be very brief about it. And I think the whole story has already been told by the seniors here, and all the challenges in the districts around are more or less similar, though the scale may be different. So I will just be telling about the work that we did in the district Hardoi. So yes, next. So I'll start with the brief description about the profile of the district. So it is the third largest district in Uttar Pradesh, and it has 5 tehsils, 19 blocks, 1306 gram panchayats, and it spans the geographical area of 5947 square kilometer. And around 87% of the district lies in rural areas. So the scope of the work is more, and the demand of the work is already there in the area. Next. So as a CDU, one of the prime schemes that we work upon is Manrega. So the prime idea of the scheme is to provide employment to the people, the 100 days employment to the people, plus the generation of assets in the villages. So the scheme allows plethora of subjects on which we can work upon. But if we go by a strategic planning, if we go by a theme, it can give us wonderful results in the villages. Next. Next. So last year we chose this theme of Catch the Rain because it was the theme which was applied all over the India. So we went by the theme and we did a planning and we selected those works which could help in the field of the water conservation. So this is the basic profile of the work that we did in last year, and these are some of the benefits like the mandates that we generated and the amount of water that we conserved by all these projects. Next. I think this has already been explained by the seniors before. So yes, so there is a seasonal river called Sai Nadi in the district Hardoi. The length of the river is around 180 kilometer, and it spans over the 11 blocks of the district. So 2 years back, the district administration took over this project, and under Manrega, they did dredging, desilting, they did plantation all around the along the banks of the river, and the result of this project was we created mandates of around 5,22,000 with the expenditure of around 10 crores. And next, please. And that year, the district was awarded the second national award for this project. Next. Last year, with the convergence of Manrega and the micro irrigation department, we took the project of 6 check dams in the villages, and these check dams were completed in a single year with the expenditure of around 75 lakhs. So the results of this project was it ensured that there is availability of water all throughout the year. Plus, it helped in recharging of water. Along with it, it also provided irrigation facility to the agricultural farmers in the villages nearby. Next. These are some of the pictures. Next. Yes. So under the guidance and the leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister of India, this is the project which is undergoing in all over the country. All of the districts are doing this. So by Government of India, each district was given the target of 75 Amrit Sarovars that we have to complete it in 5 years. So by 15th August, we had to complete the 20% of it. But the government of Uttar Pradesh, it took the project extensively and it increased the target of the district with 1 Amrit Sarovar per Gram Panchayat. So the target of Hardoi became 1306 Amrit Sarovars, and we had to complete the 20% of these Amrit Sarovars by 15th August. So this is the project where we extensively use the technology with the help of RSAC, a remote sensing application center. We did the contour mapping, satellite imaging. We studied the watershed of the area. We understood the water recharging capacity, water holding capacity of the reservoir. And we also tried to study the natural slope of the reservoir. Because in most of the water conservation projects, like when we go to the rural areas and we see the ponds that are developed under Manrega, most of the ponds are not filled with water because there is a fault in the planning. They don't look the natural flow of the river. They don't go by the natural flow of the water, and the bund is prepared or constructed all around the ponds. So there is no inlet of water. There is no proper outlet of water. So for constructing the Amrit Sarovars, we looked into the map, Google map of the district, and we marked around 460 water bodies in the district. After that, we developed block level committees. They did the survey, and after that, we selected around 90 water bodies that we decided to work upon. And these are the water bodies which are very large in size, most of them around 15 hectares. And these are the water bodies which are not in their original shape. Most of the water bodies are either barren or encroached upon. So when we took upon this project, each Kshetra Panchayat was given the target of 5 Amrit Sarovars that they had to develop using their Kshetra Panchayat fund. So currently, the work is undergoing in 55 of the Amrit Sarovars, and around 23 Amrit Sarovars are already completed. So these are the drone photographs of some of the Amrit Sarovars. Next. Okay, so after that, there was this pond which was at the heart of the city, and it was encroached upon. It was very dirty, and people never used to go there. So last year we took up this project, and with the help of the Nagar Palika Hardoi, we developed, rejuvenated, and beautified this pond. The 100% supply of water is through the main nala of the city. So all the dirty water through the nala comes to the pond. There is an STP that we had established using the Nagar Palika fund, And when we check the water quality of the pond, it is according to the parameters that is set up by the ministry. So this has now become a very beautiful place, and it also helps in recharging of water. And the main thing is that the 100% of water supplies to the dirty water of the city. Next. So last year we renovated around 1,330 ponds in the rural areas, which had been conservation of around 18.6 crore liters of water. These are some of the pictures. Next. These are the pictures. Okay. Yes. The next project that we took last year was the construction of rooftop rainwater harvesting systems. So in phase 1, we selected the Vikas Bhavan, the block level buildings, and then we went to the schools, primary schools, where we constructed this rooftop rainwater harvesting system with the convergence of Gram Panchayat and Manrega. So we constructed around 806 rooftop rainwater harvesting systems, which helps in around conservation of around 9.9 crore liters of water. So when we were talking about the community engagement and community participation, I think this is one of the most this is the project where we can involve most of the people and especially the children, because if we imbibe this philosophy in them that this is the most important and most urgent topic that we have to and we should focus upon, I think we'll be seeing good results in the future. Next. These are the pictures. Yes. And the another project that we took last year was the construction of soak pits around the hand pumps. So as we can see, rural areas have so many hand pumps and they are located at public space, but most of the water that come out of this hand pumps are either unused, misused, scattered around, or it gets evaporated. So if we construct a soak pit around the hand pumps, the water which was generally not helping in recharging the groundwater, it can be used, it can be directly sent to the sent at the ground level, and it can help in recharging the aquifer. The important thing is the water that goes through the soak pits, it's not dirty, and it's comparatively filtered, because we use stones and sands in the soak pit. So it helps in recharging with the with relatively water of better quality. Next. Last year, we also undertook this project where we constructed around 125 Apne Vatikas in the villages. So the main purpose of this project was to provide a green space to the villages, just like cities. So in these places, it served so many purposes. First one was to free the government land from the encroachment. Second, we also developed pathways in these Apne Vatikas, and varieties of plants were planted in the Apne Vatikas. So it provides a space to people where they can come, roam around, sit and talk about stuff. Plus, the greenery that is in the Apni Vatikas, the trees that we planted, it also helps in soil retention capacity of the water retention capacity of the soil. And it also helps in recharging the groundwater. Next. These are some of the pictures. So this year we had the target of plantation during Vriksharopan drive was around 75 lakhs plants. So we planted it. We started in June and then we completed it in 15th August. Next slide. Next. So the new thing that we tried to do in district this year was we tried to develop around 370 Miyawaki sites in rural areas. So we generally don't see Miyawaki plantation in rural areas. This is the technique we generally adopt in urban cities, because it is relatively an expensive exercise. So we tried to develop a very small patch in villages. So the patches that we took was around 10 by 10 meters square, because we wanted to see if it works or not, and to ensure that community participates in and it also owns the asset. Is we selected few sites which were planted by some specific community. For example, in some sites plants were planted by women only, in some sites plants were planted by children, and in some sites plants were planted by youth. So it was like a community specific activity, and these plantation drive, the plantation in the Miyawaki sites were completed this month only, and I think we'll be able to see the results in coming 3-4 months. Next. These are the plantation activity. Yes, so this is a very specific project that we completed in 1 month only, in the last month. So there is this water body Ruya Gadi. It is in the forest land in one of the blocks here. So the area of the water body is around 84 hectares, and it is not a very deep water body. The maximum depth of the water body is around 1 meter. So the water capacity of the water body is very high. But what used to happen is all the rainwater that used to get collected in the water body used to get drained out from a nala. So we asked the irrigation department to make an estimate of the check dam that we can build upon here, so that we can save that water from getting drained out. So the estimate that came out was around 90 lakhs. When we visited the site, we realized that there was no need to make a very hi-fi check dam, and instead of check dam, we made this causeway cum outlet with the convergence of Gram Panchayat and Manrega. So the cost of this structure was around 15 lakh, and it was completed in 1 month only. It is just like a 1 meter wide bund, and the requirement and the check dam was not required because the pressure of the water that was in the water body was not very high, and plus the depth of the water was not so much. So I think this structure can help in maintaining the water level of the water body. It will help in recharging the groundwater, plus I think in coming months it will also provide a place for the migratory birds. Next. So these are some of the other projects that we did, like urban bunding. Next. These are the pictures that we pictures of the projects that we did. And this is the last thing. For example, in Amrit Sarovar, there was one condition that the dirty water shouldn't enter the Amrit Sarovar. So all the Amrit Sarovars were selected out of the villages. So there are some ponds there which are in the middle of the villages, in which the dirty water of the village comes in. So these were the sites which were not selected in Amrit Sarovars. So then the waste stabilization pond that we generally make in urban areas are very costly, because they use very hi-fi technologies like phytoremediation, bioremediation, STPs, and the cost of single such unit is around 90 lakhs to 1 crore. So in villages we can't afford such expensive structures. So we invited the Pondman of India, Ramveer Tambar. He visited Hardoi, and we went around these villages. We selected around 13 villages, and with the use of his methodology, that is constructed wetlands, we are making some structures. We are making filtration chambers, and the cost of each structure is around 4 to 5 lakhs. And out of these 13 structures, around 4 of them are complete, and the rest of them will be completed by this month end. And how this system work, how successful it will be, I think we'll be able to know the result in coming 2-3 months. Next. So I think I'll wrap up my presentation with this single quote, like, no matter how much rich you are, you can't live without water. So I think we all realize how urgent and how important this issue of water conservation is, because as we can see in the news, the Europe is facing the worst drought in the last 500 years. China is also facing the drought. So I think this is the high time when we should prioritize this issue, this theme, and we should work collectively on this, so that we can prevent ourselves as well as our society from this scarcity of water in future. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Akanksha ma'am. Your message, I'm sure, has gone right. So now I'll come back to Debashri ma'am. Your feedback. You have got all the three speakers. So the last word is yours.
So thank you very much. Thank you, Vishal, Dinesh, Akanksha. I think what I heard from all three of you, and that is something that I'd like to emphasize, is that degree of planning and understanding of long-term perspective planning. That's I think really something that I'd like to appreciate. And I'm seeing this in the presentations of almost all the officers who are speaking in the last in the last 1 year that I've been listening to people. So there is this, one is marrying science with planning and making it center of water conservation. So that is one. Just 3 points that I'd like to mention. So Dinesh, you spoke, Vishal, you spoke about the fact that, resources under the NMCG are limited. So you want to take up more water bodies. So just to let you know that some resources are also available under the what we call the RRR program of the Ministry of Jal Shakti, Department of Water Resources.
Right.
It is, of course, this water body has to be of a minimum size, but resources are available under this program. So if you have any appropriate water bodies, you could access resources there. The other
Right.
point to everybody is about, all of you have talked about mobilizing the community, and we can keep rejuvenating water bodies, but maintenance, as long as community doesn't have a stake in that water body, will be really, really difficult. So one of the things that some states are trying to do is getting in. One, of course, is certain states are getting in a lot of CSR for rejuvenation, but the other is also getting the community, particularly for smaller village level bodies, to try to get the community to contribute something so that they have what is called skin in the game. So that's something that we may want to think about going forward. If you mobilize the community and they contribute 10%, 15% of, whether in cash or in kind, then that would be that they see the value of the work that is being done. So that would be interesting. The last point is that for all of you, Dinesh, you spoke about the perspective planning. So the district water conservation plan is not supposed to be a one-year plan. It is a multi-year plan, and we need to look at iterations every 3 years or 5 years, depending on what is being done. I saw in some villages in Bhuj, so the village has gone through a water planning process, a water demand and supply planning process, and that has been reduced to a very simple chart which is on the panchayat wall. They tick off the projects that are completed. So they prioritize projects and they tick off the projects that are completed. So even when the panchayat pradhan changed, the priorities of the village in terms of water conservation and recharge have not changed. So that was one, it really stayed with me as a very interesting way of, continuous, let us say, commitment to the to water conservation and recharge. Finally, just for everybody's information, the Central Groundwater Board has created a manual on aquifer recharge, which sort of says what kind of structures are appropriate for what kind of terrain, and that has district-wise data. So it is on the website of the Central Groundwater Board. So again, Dinesh, in response to your, it is very interesting when you say you did an assessment and 65% of the structures were not as per what is suitable in that region. So you can use that in terms of a general idea of what structures are suitable in what area. So I will stop here. Thank you very much. We will use these interactions. We also try and share it with the academy so that other young officers can learn from you. Thank you. And as they say, let's make water everybody's business.
Thanks, ma'am. And thanks to all the speakers. Here we conclude this 35th edition of this webinar. Looking forward to the next edition, and best wishes to all of you in your initiatives on water conservation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.